right, good evening, everyone. It's March 12th. I'd like to call the Granby Planning and Zoning Commission to order. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to do a commission check-in. My name is Mark Lockwood. I'm the commission chair. We'll start. We do have a commissioner on Zoom. Robert, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, Robert Lavitt, member, electronically from Phoenix.
Eric Lukenfield, member.
Christine Shinning, member.
Eric Myers, vice chair.
Stephen Muller, member.
Meg Bailey, alternate.
Paula Johnson, alternate.
Okay. We do have Commissioner Shahan not in attendance today, and Commissioner Jabley will be sitting in. Did I say the last name right?
Close. Jabailey.
Jabailey.
It's fine.
Sorry.
It's a really hard one.
Okay, next on our agenda is public session. Items not on the agenda are subject to a public hearing. Does anyone in the audience like to address the commission? Anyone on Zoom?
Might want to wait.
No.
Okay. All right. Not seeing anyone for public session, well, we will close public session. Next is item number 5, action of the minutes of February the 27th. I took a look at them. Does anyone in the commission have a comment?
No comment. They look good.
Good to me.
Good to be. No comment.
No comment. I'll take a motion.
So moved. Second.
A motion to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained?
Abstain.
Good. We have one abstention from Commissioner
Two.
Commissioner Dean. Two
Abstain.
abstentions. We have 2 abstentions. Otherwise, the motion carries. Next on the agenda is item number 6. We have public hearings. One is a continuation of a public hearing we started our last meeting for site plan modification and special permit under zoning regulations 3.5.4.3 for storage structures and outdoor activity at 563 Sammerbrook Street. Is the applicant here? Good evening. Just introduce yourself and address again for the record, please.
Sure. John Kahn, 563 Salmon Brook Street.
Good to see you again.
See you.
So I know the commission had some comments last time, and I'll start with Abby. You did write a memo. Do you want to review what you've reviewed with the applicant since our last meeting?
Sure. So at the last meeting, the commission was seeking some clarification about the specific business operations on the site. And it was also requested that the applicant provide a more detailed site plan, clearly defining and outlining the proposed outdoor activities and spaces on the property. So in response to that, the applicant has provided additional information. So the hours of operation for the business are Monday and Tuesday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., closed on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 10 to 5, Saturday, 10 to 2, and they are closed on Sunday. The applicant did note that there would be some milling outside, and he did provide a picture of the piece of equipment that's used, and noted that since it was purchased, there's been about 3.66 hours per month that it's been used. And before we get into more of the site plan layout, I had asked that the applicant kind of clarify the outdoor milling in more detail. I know it was stated that there are 3.66 hours used per month, but when the commission has typically considered outdoor activities, usually there's information provided, about specific days, hours, duration, in the event that the commission feels it's necessary to mitigate any impact on neighbors. So looking for some clarification from you as to, what exactly that looks like.
Yeah, typically, I will say typically, so we don't have like a scheduled day where I mill, because a lot of times I mill off-site. I've got 3.5 acres that I mill on, and we also do portable jobs. But if I have to recut a mantle or something, we will do that there behind the shop. Typically between like 11 and 2 p.m. is pretty typical around lunchtime to run out there and get what we need to do cut. Duration, I said, so that was the hour meter on the machine. There's been whole months where we didn't even mill. So that's kind of how it goes, weather permitting and winter permitting. And right now, it's off-site, we mill off-site, and that's predominantly what happens. So it's very limited in that, but it's during the work day when I have a chance to go out there and cut what I need to cut. I can show you on the map if we want to pull up that PowerPoint, because I have a detailed map, which was one of the requests by the commission, and I can show you typically where that's located when I mill in the back there. It's not a problem.
Catherine, do you mind pulling up the site plan?
Perfect. So, right in front of that proposed small carport, the center of the diagram, that's where we typically would be doing the milling. It's hard to see right in the center.
So in what is shown as the parking space area?
Yeah, that's
or-
not actually paved, but yes, like right next to the carport would be the ideal location for it.
So here.
So that's about almost 100 feet away from the back line.
Can you just show to make sure that we have that
Yes, exactly, yep.
right there? Okay.
Yep, near that carport.
So the,
It's probably laser pointer.
the 4 spaces kind of on this side.
So away from the building in the middle of the picture.
Yeah, and if, we could bring it another 50 feet out and do it next to the other carport, that doesn't matter. That's okay. If you want another 50 feet from the new fence line and the berm, that's doable as well.
And that would be a new carport, that's not an existing?
Correct. Yeah, part of the special permit was for outdoor storage of our live edge slabs and these 2 carports. I removed the large building after.
And what is the purpose for the milling? Is it to mill logs, or is it to show equipment? Is it?
Oh, no, it's to mill logs, or like we saw a mantle, or like we saw a piece of live edge.
Logs.
Oh, yeah, it's part of our process.
To refinish them for sale? Okay.
Exactly.
So there's nothing to do with the selling of the equipment to show it?
No,
out?
we don't sell bandsaw mills.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
So that's where the milling would occur. Where do you store that equipment when you're not milling on site or when it's not
It
transported?
would be
off-site?
either offsite, if it's on here, like let's say in the winter, it would be in a carport,
Okay.
inside that one of those carports, out of the rain, out of the snow. So the goal behind those carports is really to kind of store the machine that we used to offload, like our deliveries, our pallets, keep it out of the rain, keep it out of the snow, and then store our equipment out of the rain.
Just a comment I have, and I haven't been in the back there since it was the previous use, but I think you said there's no parking spaces back there today.
Not like the diagram. So this diagram has clearly defined lines and everything.
Correct.
Right.
But
that's
there
not-
are parking spaces out front, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yep.
Okay.
And we could line part of the rear.
So,
dead spaces.
one of and again, we have to work off these site plans because, as I might mention to you before, this becomes part of, if you decide to sell this tomorrow as the same business, then the next, so one of the things that I'm kind of looking for in the site plan is a little bit more accuracy, which was if there's no parking spots out back, but they're out front, to show them, because right now, staff or our zoning enforcement, people don't know necessarily where it is, so I don't know if that's a request that can be, if you said you're gonna do the milling in these spots, then that should be shown, if I'm not mistaken, Abby, right? We should have that on the plan, if the commission was gonna allow that?
Yeah, it should be, yeah.
This is that, yeah. Because I don't want to make a lot of exceptions, like if the commission were gonna, subject to this, and this, that's just my take, commission can chime in, that's just one comment, I'll let the commission make some other ones too.
Yeah, I would like to see that specifically delineated. I'd like to see the parking specifically delineated. What are the 2 carports both for equipment storage?
Yeah.
We're still talking about those tarp-covered type
For
carports.
these 2 small ones, yes. Yeah, the large one was the one that was proposed, just clear span building. That's the ones like they have behind piers. There's two clear span buildings behind Pierce Builders. That's the one that we removed after feedback from the commission saying that they don't want to see a building like that. So we're going to table that until we can put up a modern building or something.
So before we get too much on site plan, so let's get back on the millings, because so the milling operations, it's outside, could be in the back area, and during your business hours, you'd be there. So where do the millings go? They go in one of these storage spots back here?
Yeah, so what we do is we normally stack the air dry right here in the flex product storage, stay there for about a week or two, and then we bring it inside for finishing in our, whatever project we're building, picking a tabletop, live edge, kitchen countertop, mantle, whatever it is that we're building.
I actually think the chair was asking, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the chair was asking about the waste that comes from the mill.
The chips and the scraps.
The slab wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's usually like 4 flinches that come off a log or come off a piece, like if I cut a 1-inch piece of cherry, we call it a flitch. We'll move that into our temp, garbage space back there that we designated, because that's what we wanted in the commission, the detailed map, and then we'll pull that off. Every 2 weeks, I pretty much take whatever slab width we have. It's usually not much, because if we do cutoffs from a live edge slab, it's maybe a piece that's 3 inches wide and 10 feet long, it doesn't fit in our dumpster, we take that off site. So I cart that off with a dumping trailer. There's not a lot of waste. We try to recycle a lot of it. A lot of the cutoffs we use for trim, and we sell it for trim. So there's just very few type of waste products like that. Right now, there are dead trees being taken down and stuff, so there's a lot of debris back there right now. But once that's done, it's not wood shop debris. That's all land clearing stuff right now that you see back there.
So just so I understand, you've got an area that's labeled, it's like a rectangular area on the right side of the drawing that's labeled log storage. And is this temporary bio garbage where it says 15 feet, that's where you mean?
Yeah, right now the stumps that we're pulling out, stumps and the stuff that we're cleaning up the property with gets stored there and then hauled out. So the commission wants to see a detailed map of where that's stored currently.
And what occurs in the area marked product storage live edge slabs?
So that would be a nice area where we would stack our live edge slabs and have them for display, and then also where we can air dry and bring them inside when they're ready.
So that's your raw materials in effect?
Semi-finished. It's not raw in terms of, it's milled to size, and it looks pretty, but it's not completely dry.
Okay.
Before we sell it, it has to be dry.
I see.
But that's our product, if you will, that kind of showcase. You can see the pine slabs, you see the cherry slabs, mantles, and then that's a nice place for it.
And that's uncovered?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, but part of the process is you don't want to cover it up. You want the air to flow through the stack, and you want it to dry naturally. That's part of the process.
Just a couple of questions for me. I think the last session, I'm the one who asked for a waste management plan, so I was happy to see it, so thank you for that. But I do have a couple of questions, mainly as it pertains, you've touched on it already, but I want to drill a little deeper. You talked about continuing to trim up trees and manage the land or whatnot, and stump removal. Get all of that, but I assume that's a short-term duration. The property's not that big. You should have that done relatively quickly. And I noticed on the waste management plan, item number 4, stumps quarterly. You don't intend to bring stumps onto this property, do you?
No, not onto it, but off it.
But quarterly? Quarterly, again, I know,
Yeah,
there's only a handful of trees, I think.
Yeah, stumps are pretty big.
Right, I get it, but.
So I figure Q3, probably have a load come out of there. I'm one guy, so, we
So
can bag as fast as we can,
Appreciate that. I know that I asked you some questions about the materials that you were bringing onto the property, wood chips, whatnot. I just hope that this isn't like a staging area for other properties.
No, we don't.
If you're getting logs or slabs and you're being required to remove the slash and stumps, they shouldn't end up here.
Correct. Well, right. This is stumps generated from the property now.
Okay.
It's not brought in.
I get that, but
Yeah.
the second page is not clear to that point. The first page was,
Yes, okay.
the second page is not.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, and So there's cleanup here, and then there's also a lot of dead trees. I own the property behind it. I own the acre and a half behind it as well.
Awesome.
And there's also, cleanup activities that we haven't started yet, but there'll be cleanup activities back there as well. It's a disaster.
Well, we may ask for some modifications to the plan to make sure it's clear that for
Okay.
removal of stuff that's on the property,
Yes.
not brought on.
Understood.
You good?
For now.
So I drove by this last weekend, and I did see a lot of logs back there, a lot of things. Was that from the property, or was that brought on?
No, that was brought on. That's that.
Is that gonna be a regular occurrence, the way that is back there?
No.
Okay.
No, and actually, we've been working on cleaning that up, actively. You can go back, it's half the size right now.
Okay.
So a lot of that stuff was like the firewood stuff we had to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So we had opportunity to bring in nice red oak logs.
What do you anticipate, how many in the size of
Yeah,
what's gonna be
it's-
brought in there for this?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's not many, because we do like custom stuff, so we would have a handful of like white oak logs, a handful of red oak logs, we have some black walnut. And so it's not, in the, like right now, that pile's very big.
Yeah.
So we were looking at, usually we have an area maybe 4 feet high, 4 or 5 feet high, of logs that we kind of work through.
10, less, 12?
No, more than 12. 12 logs is
Okay.
not much.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're probably looking at like, 20, 30 logs.
Because what I see now brings back to his question about the stumps. So it's like the wood is being brought there to be processed, and then the removal is happening, and that, I don't think that would be something that I'd like to see back there.
Yeah, no, I mean, if I was processing that many logs, I'd be sawing 8 hours a day.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah, no.
that's not the scale of operation.
And so the logs that are brought to site, those are being stored in the proposed log storage area, the 60 by 30?
Correct, like even the ones that are there, some now we're getting rid of them, and whatever we can move over, we'll move over. Whatever's gonna be good.
So that proposed log storage area is right up against what I'm perceiving to be the property line. Do we have any issues or anything in the code that requires any setbacks or whatnot for that? It can be
No,
right up
something
in the
like
property
that.
line? How about I think I asked this last time, a couple of questions on the carport. Do the revised carport locations, do those meet the minimum requirement for setbacks?
Yeah.
Okay.
We do have the fence clearly defined now. You asked for that last time. And so we extended that on the property line back there, all the way back to hide the equipment storage and the flex storage space as well.
What's in the upper right corner? Is there a fence there?
No, to the other my property behind it, there is not. It's wood.
Would you consider having your entire property enclosed in a fence? We have to, but that's a residential zone behind it, right?
I believe, yeah, that lot is RR, real residential. Yep. I spoke with the homeowner right behind it at 22, and he was happy about the berm idea. We discussed that in person.
So to clarify, to the chairman's point, so on the map, what's labeled number 567R Salmonbrook Street, David Gorko and Edward Gorko, do you own
I
that
own
now?
Oh, that piece is owned.
Correct.
Yeah, it's an acre and a half.
So it's that corner, that's access to that corner?
So you would not propose a fence along that to maintain
And I
access?
So you don't own the number 20 sawmill or the
22.
22 sawmill?
Nope.
You own that rear 567?
Correct.
All right, so I do note the fence that along the 565 parcel goes and then does stop short of the back line. Any reason for that?
So I have access to the property.
Right, but you would be accessing it across another property owner?
No, so,
Unless the map is not defined. So if you look in your upper right-hand corner, the
Yes.
red line that goes behind your log storage, 60 feet?
Yes.
The red line stops like by that item that's labeled temp stump
Correct.
debris storage?
Correct.
Why wouldn't the fence go all the way to the back corner?
we could. It's a little tough. There's a lot of trees there. So
Okay.
it may be I have to look, we have to jog it over or something. It's not as simple as putting a fence. It's heavily wooded.
All right, I don't have that perspective. so
Yeah,
thank
it's, I
you
mean,
for that.
like 50-inch trees, huge trees in the way that we weren't planning on removing.
Because you wouldn't be planning on traversing that person's property to get to
No,
the back.
no, I'll go in that. That's why above it, the red line stops, because that's my access to my property.
And so on the adjacent property, though, you're not proposing any sort of activities
No.
tied to your business
No,
here?
it's residential, so it's not related.
Question I maybe roll into something else is, because we're looking at some different uses here from the original special permit for the tire location and the antique store, right? So, and I don't think the commission and the inside activities meets all the permit criteria, right, existing. So we have the outdoor stores we're looking at, we have a milling operation, and the other one that came up was you selling equipment,
Yeah.
right, with a
Yep.
display area.
Yes.
So that to me is another modification, because there was no outdoor sales before, correct, Abby?
Correct.
So explain a little bit more from the last meeting, what you're, selling your display area. I see a lot of activity, shouldn't say a lot, I don't go that way all the time, but the few times I have driven by, you got stuff going on in the front there, in front of that display area. So maybe you want to explain a little bit about what you're displaying and
Sure.
what you're selling outside.
Sure, so predominantly in the display area are log splitters, and we sell conveyors, like 12-foot firewood conveyors for people that do process firewood. We bring in like mini excavator attachments for moving logs around. They come in a pallet. That's something that's on display there. There's one there right now. And that's typically our offloading area. So when we get a delivery from FedEx, UPS, or XPO Logistics, that's where we offload them. So it doesn't disrupt the antique store, because they pull in with the truck, we offload them on the back, they pull out. That's our, one of our offloading areas. With everybody parking on the rear of our building from the tire place, it's sometimes hard to bring an 18-wheeler back there. So we normally offload them up front. And that's why, you always seen us offloading something, a pallet that comes in, even if we get a pallet at chainsaws, we offload it there, we bring it around, put it inside the rear bay.
I notice you have a fence in the back of there, so you're gonna have the product storage and a fence and then the display area.
Yes.
Abby, from a permit standpoint, does the display area have to be defined what can be displayed, or is it?
It's honestly up to the commission if you want to be specific with, what types of equipment or products could be in that area. To be honest, I don't know that there's recently been a special permit for display purposes that I could look at to see what was done there.
I just wanna make sure we keep to the character of the zone. Not that you would do this, but could, you put a used car lot in there? Right,
No.
so, right,
Yeah.
if it's too small for that, I don't know. The other question I have is the carports. We talked about this the last time. Are those temporary? What's your intention for those? Because I think I mentioned to you last time, I'm a little reluctant to have them in a special permit as a permanent addition, because I don't think they lend to permanence for which, they're,
Right.
to
Right.
me, I'm not an expert on them, but they seem more temporary in nature.
Yeah, they do break down after,
Yes.
10 years or so, they gotta be trashed. Yeah, it's basically a temporary structure where I keep my equipment in, instead of setting up a small timber frame or something and then having two little timber frames doesn't make sense. Ideally, we want a big building right there. We wanted an 80 by 40, right? So this is helping us keep the stuff out of the rain and the snow. I mean, do I need a town permission to put a carport there? I guess is the question, Doesn't have
I'm
to.
just looking at are you planning to have this and then as you get going, build a structure there?
Yeah.
Because,
I'd like to put a nice modern building up there, move all the activities inside. That's the goal. But to get there, we need capital. It takes a little bit of time.
right, I understand.
But we'll get there. We'll get there. We can put up a nice building, and that'd be beautiful. Indoor showroom, you know what I mean, and all the activities inside would be great. So that's something that we'll have to come across in the near future. But for now, we're thinking we keep the equipment out of the rain, out of the snow, out of sight, security reasons.
Abby, is there a provision where we could limit the length of the carport to be there if it's,
So the commission has limited an outdoor storage structure recently.
Yes.
So I mean, in this neighborhood, right, there are 18-wheelers, containers. All 4 of my neighbors have 2 containers, 40-foot containers, shipping containers. I think those look hideous.
So Abby, can you answer
Yeah.
there was a question, I suppose, I don't know if it was proposed or just suggested. Does the site plan approval process we're looking at here, do we have the purview to say yes or no to the
Temporary
carports, the
structures.
temporary
Sure, so-
carports?
Because it is tied to outdoor storage, which requires the special permit, I would say yes.
There's your answer.
And how about a shipping container?
is that a potential enforcement issue? If there's people storing stuff outside?
So the commission has approved, at least on one other occasion, a container for, and then it's
Ice cream.
hauled off-site.
I can't speak to any specifics, but I'm just, and staff will tell me if I'm wrong. Generally, if you're going to do something of relative permanence on your site or, many, many months, it has to be on the site plan and approved by the commission.
Okay.
I can't speak to what's going on
Sure.
with neighbors, but
Sure.
that answers is, would that be? So,
Understood. That's why I'm here with the zoning
Yeah.
map, right? I mean,
So-
but if I walk out the back of my shop and I look around, there's 4 shipping containers and there's 18-wheelers. And I'm like, oh, looks pretty
That'd
ugly.
be something for,
Looks pretty ugly to me.
our
And
CEO
here I am
look
trying
at.
to store my skid steer, and I can't store my skid steer with a small 13 by 20 carport.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like I've got some questions,
Yeah.
right? So I can change those to shipping containers. I can. No, I can, really. I can call a guy
If
up,
there's some potential, if there's alleged violations on another lot,
and that's not none of my business, but that's what I see.
I think that, we can make note of that to staff and they can maybe have the zoning enforcement officer take a look at it. So, but that's just a question I had for there. Again, generally, I just want to see what again, these site plans become what you have to follow and what anybody, so
Understood.
if there's no parking spots striped in the back, they shouldn't be, because in theory, if that's the site plan that's approved, you have to go stripe all that and pave it. But remember, what's on this piece of paper becomes what you have to do if the commission approves it. And if you have parking spots out front, and I don't know why this doesn't have them, I mean, there's some legacy, I can't speak to what's in the files, but since you're here today, that would be my suggestion, to show where you want to do the millings, clearly show the parking, show where there's no parking.
Okay.
If you're having as what Commissioner Meyer said, if the stumps and stuff is just what you're doing on your property, just to clean out your trees
Correct.
and you're not bringing them in,
Correct.
I'm not sure that even has to be on a site plan. I will ask that with Abby later. If it's just him as a business owner doing some, what I call maintenance work, it's not really,
No, anything that's tied to the operation on an ongoing basis,
Yeah.
separate from cleaning up the property.
yeah, so it's
When you-
things associated with your business, not,
Okay.
you want to,
I can get rid of that.
yeah.
That's fine.
So,
Is there any regulation for loading and loading zones?
Not
'Cause I
really,
think in Simsbury, we have a couple that we can't do certain places.
yeah.
And I guess I would like to see if there was a loading, it would be moved quickly.
Yeah.
You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
And there's parking spots, to Commissioner labeled out, those are not used for loading and unloading.
Right. Understood. Yeah, I can absolutely measure and show the parking spots all along the front, which there are many. And then even the parking spots along the side, I can show that. That's fine.
Well, and I think too, it would be good to actually show, to delete the 4 parking spaces that you're proposing to use to do the milling, because that's not really parking spots.
Understood.
Yeah,
That's
so
what the
that's-
chairman was
yeah.
getting at.
have him reflect what he wants this to look like, so.
You're missed him.
Please put your phones on mute and silent, please.
So can I just ask one,
Yeah.
so when it comes to the milling, it sounds like that's pretty minor then, if, it's on the occasion. So just so I understand, so the logs that are stored, primarily you're bringing them inside the building to do most of the work on them?
Yeah,
Or
so
what's-
it depends.
How does that work?
Like from the log storage?
Yeah.
So we'll have, it depends. So we'll have, like a tree comes, like, oh, I got 2 white oak logs. Perfect. I'll buy them, put them there, and we'll take them off-site to mill them. Or if I get a chance, I'll mill one here, 1 or 2 logs, like lunchtime. And I'll mill it and then stack it. So then it becomes our stackable material.
Okay, so when milling's done on site, it's all outside? There's nothing done inside?
No, that's not true. That we mill, I'm talking about outside, but we also do stuff
Okay.
inside. I mean, we plane, we sand, we finish, we resaw. We have all types of operations inside. It's just we can't handle something that's like 12 feet
That
long.
big.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So it depends on the size of the item. Like if I got to recut a mantle, it's 8 feet long, 9 by 12, we normally cut it on the mill. It's safer to go on the mill, cut it and be done, instead of handling on a bandsaw side.
Okay.
It's not feasible. So there are certain sizes of slabs that we have to do.
Okay.
That's really important, actually.
So you said you do have another lot?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so why wouldn't the logs be brought to the other lot, cut down to size, and then brought here for the
I-
finished
I do.
product? Oh, I thought you said they were gonna get unloaded here, then cut and brought
No,
down.
I'm saying that's an example of like,
Okay.
it happens. Like, people are like, I got 2 white oak logs, you want to buy them? Yep, perfect, I'll buy them. And I can take them off-site and mill all the time. So I
Right.
mill 2 hours in the morning, I mill at night,
But-
Yeah, a lot of milling's not off-site, but
I would almost prefer to see them off there and then brought into to do your finished product here.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
Yep, but there are,
Not here for storage, cut up and then brought somewhere
Right, but
else.
there are situations where that happens.
Right.
And so here I am telling you what happens. I mean, I'm not gonna like tell you it doesn't happen,
Yeah, no,
it happens.
I get it.
Somebody comes with a black walnut log, I buy it.
Yeah, I know.
It's black walnut, I'll buy it. You know what I mean? Then we'll figure out how to get it sawn or, what, stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
there are times where that happens, absolutely. Maybe not now, but in the middle of summer, get an opportunity to get a nice black walnut log, we buy it.
Right.
That's very important, it's part of the business.
I got a few questions about the milling. I think I heard you just say that you do some of the milling inside and some outside. Is that right?
Yep.
All right. I don't know that I'm all that familiar with milling, but what kind of noise does that generate?
It's a 28 horsepower Kohler. It's quieter than a leaf blower. And I urge you to talk to my neighbor at 22 Sawmill Road, who I spoke to, when he was saying, you should go talk to him.
Who's
And
that?
ask him about the noise.
Who is that neighbor?
His name?
Yeah.
Stephen.
What's his
His
name?
name's Stephen.
Stephen?
Yeah.
Does he have a last name?
I don't remember his last name.
All right. Have you talked to any of your other neighbors about your operation that you're proposing?
Yeah, I mailed letters to my neighbors, and he's the only one that returned my calls.
Okay, all right. Does the milling equipment that you're going to use outside have a decibel rating in terms of the noise that it generates?
Yeah, and I don't know off the top of my head, but there is one.
You do?
Yep.
All right. I'm just curious, is there any reason why you can't do all the milling inside?
Yeah, the current size of the garage bays is not large enough to allow that. So we wanted to put up the outdoor, the 80 by 40 structure to do that. That was kind of the goal behind the clear span structure,
Okay.
which was in the previous
Is
commission
that part
meeting.
of your plans to actually go to a structure where all the milling could be
Yes.
inside?
Yes, if you approve the clear span structure, that goes inside immediately.
And then how long does it take for that to happen?
Clear span structure, few months. It's about $40,000. I gotta do site work, get the clear span inside, it's about a few months.
And where would that go on this map?
It was on the previous one. It was cutting into the log storage area down to part of this yellow square. It was on the older map.
Okay.
But that was the idea behind the 80 by 40, get all that inside, and then I could saw when it's raining, it's nice, you know what I mean, get it out of the elements. And it wasn't very expensive. At Morton Building, you're looking at $220,000 with concrete and everything.
So you'd be okay with a condition of the permit that you have to complete that building in a certain period of time?
Yeah, if you approve a clear span, absolutely.
Just to be, what's the clear
A
span?
clear span is a brand name that makes those 80 by 40 buildings, the commercial buildings.
So a Morton building or the
No,
temporary carport?
no,
type
a clear span is
structure?
actually not considered, it's temporary, but it's very, very high quality, they last like 30 years. That's not a Norton building. The brand name is called Clearspan.
Okay, so that's what was shown
Yes.
in your
That's a Clearspan?
picture, the,
That white one's a Clearspan, yeah, which is a heavy fabric, heavy truss building. It's not, there's two of them, you can see them down behind Pierce, there's two of them there. That's like an actual building, it's not like I can't put it up myself, you gotta hire people to put up with cranes and stuff, but that's an actual commercial building designed for commercial activity, affordable commercial activity.
So it would actually have a cement floor, foundation type?
It would have like three-quarter process, compacted floor, yeah.
And it appears to attach it to?
Yeah, it has to be, because it's got snow load rating, wind load rating, it's all engineered. Yeah, they're nice, they're big, they're nice, that's a big company. That's a nice building.
Abby, I had a question just from the previous use. I'm sorry I didn't bring this up earlier, but was there existing hours for the business on the inside for the, is that in the permit or
I
no?
don't recall existing hours for that, do you? No.
Oh, just curious.
Yeah, I can double check that, but I don't recall anything hours-wise.
Would you, if the commission was so inclined, would you be open to if we had a different set of hours for outside work versus inside work? Usually what I mean by, you could do more inside longer than, normally when there's outside work next to a residential zone, I'm making this up.
Understood.
You don't start before 8,
All
past 5.
Of course. Yep, of course.
Things like that.
Yep, and we follow that today. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not there at 6 in the morning, firing up any machine,
Yeah.
and I'm not there at 7 PM firing up any machine, you know what I mean, for any reason, so yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's reasonable, I mean, everything, that's
So-
very reasonable. That's expected.
So the hours of
That's-
operation that you've listed, that you've shared with
Yep.
Abby, that are in her memo, those are not just the hours that you would be open to the public, those are the hours you'd be
We're there.
operating, period. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Jason may come in at 9 in the morning and do some staining on pine board downstairs. That's no big deal. But no, we're not milling outside or anything like that, 7 in the morning. I've got an 8-month-old daughter, spend as much time as long as I can.
Well, I think the commission, you'll see, we typically give a broader, because we don't want you to have to come back, I want to open Wednesdays now, and so but you may see, that's why I asked you, okay, you might see one for doing inside, hypothetically, might be a longer period, and then the outside will be a shorter window.
Understood.
Just
Yeah,
as long as you're good with that.
That's reasonable, yeah, that's reasonable.
Other questions? I'll see if there's any public comments before we continue ours. Does any members of the public wish to speak on this application? Oh, come on, Paula.
May I? I have to. Paula Johnson, 289 Simsbury Road, West Granby, also an alternate. I just have one question. It mentioned firewood, and where the firewood is going to be stored, and is he bringing in wood to make firewood, or is it from his scraps? A little more information on that, I think, would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure, so there was a typo in that first matter. We don't sell firewood. We sell firewood equipment, but we don't sell firewood. The logs that were there that we're cleaning up, I'm taking off site. There's just firewood logs. But we don't sell or manufacture firewood at this time. I don't actually plan on doing that, but we do sell like log splitters and firewood manufacturing equipment. Yes, we do sell those.
From my standpoint, I would like to see some of the stuff we talked about outlined on the plan. And what the commission feels, I'd actually like to have you work on the staff instead of us trying to write it up on a motion or something, because it gets complicated. So that's my first comment. For that, does the commission have other questions or comments that they'd like to see?
I just think there's just a lot of pieces that
Yeah.
we talked about tonight that, I know our vice chair tries very hard to take notes on everything we say.
Well, going on there.
But it's, I would prefer to have the applicant work further with staff to make a more specific plan that really reflects what we would actually be approving. I'm just concerned that no matter how good a job the vice chair does in crafting a motion, I don't think we can capture everything we've talked about that we want to actually see on the plan.
So I'll second that, so to speak. While I'm up for a challenge, as everybody knows here, this is, normally we're enhancing a well-written staff recommendation and proposal with maybe a few caveats that come up in discussion. I don't know what at present, I don't know what I do with this.
But if I hear correctly, is the commission, seems that we're okay with the direction of the, I call it the 3 outside activities, which is milling, storage, and display and sales? Is that generally concept?
I'll start. I mean, as we stated before, I'm an advocate for small businesses being successful in Granby, and I think we can reach some sort of an accommodation to get you most of what you need with some pretty heavy restrictions. So I'm in favor of moving forward, but I need to see a clearly defined plan that we can review, as Commissioner Shinny has said, as well as making some additional comments so that if, not saying you're not going to enforce, but this is the same thing I'd say to anybody, something that's clearly defined for our zoning enforcement officer to deal with for this person and the next property owner and the property owner after that. And I don't see that right now.
But it's important to remember that whatever we approve in a special permit goes with the property. So if you
Sell it.
win the lottery and decide that while this was lovely, now that you're a wealthy man, you'd rather invest in a yacht and sail around the world, and you sell the property to somebody else, he or she would have to follow these same rules. So that's why it's so important that they be clear and specific. It's not that we're hostile in any way to your project. I mean, based on the comments that I'm hearing, I think probably a majority of us would approve most of what you want. We just need it to be clearer and more specific.
I think we can get there. I think.
Yeah, so, sorry.
Okay.
So I know off the top of my head, the parking spot updates, we can do that. Remove the debris, because that's temporary work, that's not part of the business plan. And where the milling would occur, I'll put it there very clearly. Is there any updates with the carport sizing or anything like that you want to see?
I'll work with you.
Okay, on that.
I agree with what the commissioner said. Definitely, I'd like to see designated parking, designated loading and unloading. What we talked about with where you're going to, bring, instead of bringing them here, try to bring them somewhere else rather than bring the trees in here. And then the carports, I'm the temporary storage, I'm going to call it, because I prefer those type of storages to be temporary.
Right.
I've maybe some more information on the other building. That they do, I have seen them, but I don't really, not familiar, lifespan, that sort of stuff, and materials might be helpful for that sort of thing. I'd be more willing for something like that, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well, the first time I came around.
So, and then within, I don't know if you can put it where he stores the logs now because of the setbacks and stuff like that, so that might be more defined, would be easier. We could have that on the map as well,
I think as Commissioner Miller and I think Eric said too, if you have in mind, I mean, the commission has, as Abby said, on a temporary structure, put a time limit on that. You might want to think about what your plans are to give some guidance to the commission on, because I'm leaning that way. I'm not sure others, maybe to put some kind of a definition of what temporary is.
Understood.
So when it comes to that, and looking at replacing those with a more permanent structure, so is the commission thinking having phase 1 and phase 2 of a site?
Certainly.
Love to see that.
Yeah, definitely.
You can just deal with this phase 1, but, hypothetically, again, temporary structure for X period, whatever that is, and then after that period or before it expires, you'd have to come back for revising the site plan is one way. It's probably easier for you now because you probably don't have, maybe you do. If you do have it, we can put it in the site plan.
Yeah, all the details for, let's say, the clear span or the. Yeah, understood.
Because that takes, that has to have the setbacks, and that's
Yes.
building official gets involved.
Yes.
And,
Engineer drawings are submitted.
Yep.
Permits.
Yeah, of course, yeah, that's good. Understood.
Did you have any?
I think just updating the visual communication and making sure that we know that that's a mill, because I'm taking notes, and maybe even the edge of the woods in the place you indicated that it was, but it's not marked out.
Okay.
If that is it, in fact, what you would consider the edge of the woods. Just anything that you kind of verbally said, make sure it's visually communicated on the site plan.
And the other issues too, maybe listen to what was suggested by the neighbors at the last meeting, maybe more of a privacy fence.
Yep.
Maybe, no, something really to, so they don't have any,
Yeah, understood.
you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I'll reach out again to the neighbor that I had.
down the side, along the back,
Yeah.
so it doesn't come up later that,
Understood. Oh, yeah, of course, yeah, I mean, the berm, I talked to the neighbor about the berm, he's very happy.
And make sure the neighbors are happy with the berm, maybe they want a fence.
Yeah, no, right, that's why I spoke when we walked the property.
Right, go to them all though, knock on doors.
Yeah, yeah.
Another thing to add to the list is getting the decibel level for the equipment,
Sure.
which sounds like it's not very loud, so that'll.
Nope, that's fine.
Your mill's a wood miser, right?
Yep.
Abby, I have one question.
Thanks, Bob. Sorry, I didn't see you up there still. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still here. The building that he's proposing, does it meet the code? Do we?
So, yeah, that would be a question for the building official. I would have to have him take a look at that.
And I can provide.
Okay.
Thanks for letting us know you were still there, sir.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions of us, Abby? Yes? Do you have anything else? Before, I would suggest that we keep the hearing open. In fact, if we're asking for this, I think we have to. So if the commission doesn't object, we'll continue the hearing. Do you have any other questions of us?
No, it's clear, I'll get the information. We'll meet again. When's the next meeting?
March 26th. And if you need more time to get that, we can address that.
It should be, I should go get it, that's fine. That's fine, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, you're up there. Okay, next on the agenda is another public hearing seeking site plan modification for property at 13 East Granby Road. If Vice Chair Myers could read the call to the hearing.
There will be a public hearing conducted by the P&Z on Tuesday, March 12, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the Granby Town Hall Meeting Room, 15 North Granby Road, to hear and consider the following item. Application seeking a site plan modification for property located at 13 East Granby Road to construct a parking lot and connect to the parking lots at 4 Park Place and 17R East Granby Road. COCE file Z-3-24. At the hearing, interested persons may appear and written communications will be received. Copies of the proposals are on file in the Community Development Office.
See the applicant and the representative are here?
Yes, good evening. For the record, my name is Ed Lally. I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor. I have an office in Windsor, and I've been appearing before this commission for almost 50 years now.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm representing 3 clients tonight: 13 East Granby Road LLC, the owner of 13 East Granby Road; Shenandoah Realty LLC, the owner of 17R East Granby Road, that's sometimes known as At the Barn Restaurant; and Granby Park Place NLH LLC, the owner of 4 Park Place, Granby's most famous ice cream store. Section 3.10 of the Granby zoning regulations states, vehicular access and parking shall be designed to permit passage between adjacent properties. You note the word shall. And it says shared parking is strongly encouraged. There are 3 applicants to this application. All three have signed it, because the 3 properties involved in this proposal are for a new parking lot providing 24 new parking spaces on land that is currently owned by 13 East Granby Road LLC. The proposed parking lot will be connected to the existing parking lot serving 4 Park Place and the existing parking lot serving the At the Barn Restaurant. That's the reason for all 3 applicants indicating that they are in favor of and willing to participate in this new parking lot, which is built in accordance with Section 310, or to be built in accordance with Section 310. Additionally, as encouraged by Section 310 of the zoning regulations, the owner of 4 Park Place, 2 Park Place, 11 East Granby Road, and 17R East Granby Road have entered to a shared parking and shared access agreement, a copy of which has been executed, and a copy of that has been submitted to Abby. It will be filed on the land records as a condition of approval of this application. Additionally, the rear portion of the land at 13 East Granby Road, which will contain the parking lot, will be deeded from 13 East Granby Road LLC to the owners of 17R East Granby Road, also as a condition of approval. A copy of the map to be filed showing this transfer and a copy of the deed executed at this time has also been provided to your town planner, the Director of Community Development. In addition to the 24 new parking spaces, an additional accessible handicapped parking space will be painted and signed right at the entrance at the Barn Restaurant. So there will be a total of 25 spaces proposed. Though extra spaces are not required by the regulations to accomplish shared parking, if we count the patio dining areas as needing parking for patio dining customers, there would be 10 extra spaces beyond that required by your regulations that could be used for the customers of 4 Park Place and the customers of 2 Park Place and 11 East Granby Road. If the patio dining is not included in the required parking calculations, which according to state law, I understand they're not required to be counted, there would be 25 extra parking spaces here. So there's plenty of extra parking to share. The share is not dedicated to, with the exception of 2 parking spaces which are available to the employees of 4 Park Place, because in their cooperation with us, they are losing 2 parking spaces. So we're giving them the right to have 2 employees park on our lot. The owners of 13 East Granby Road will continue to own the lot, the remnant of the lot, and the house, which they rent out to individuals who work in the town of Granby. This design provides vegetative screening to buffer the new parking lot from the residential use, preserves existing trees to the east of the existing parking lot, east of the existing parking lot, and preserves existing vegetation to buffer the new parking lot from uses to the south. Low-level shielded dark sky compliant lighting is provided in the area, as is an area for snow storage, and a stormwater storage absorption system is designed for the new parking lot that will completely contain and absorb rainfall from all design storms up to and including that from a 100-year storm. That's a rainfall of about 9.8 inches in 24 hours.
Almost like we've had the last month.
Pardon?
Almost like we've had the last month.
Yeah, in January, I don't know about last month, but in January there was 6.55 inches of rainfall in the month, which was 208% of the normal amount of rainfall we usually get in January. So it's been a wet season. The plans also include the proposed replacement of the existing drainage system in the existing at the Barton parking lot. That drainage system is in a state of failure and floods frequently. The new design will completely contain and absorb the rainfall from all design storms up to and including that from a 10-year design storm and accumulated rainfall from more intense storm, including that of storms up to and including a 100-year storm. It will not cause flooding or runoff onto properties of others. I might note that the ponding during a 100-year storm lasts for 16 and a half minutes. It would just try to get over that additional bit of ponding was exceedingly expensive. Talked to the town engineer at length, presented a 14-page study of that issue, and he concurs that what we've done is appropriate. To ensure that these systems have a long functional life, extra deep sumps and hooded inlets are provided on all catch basins to remove floatables and trap extra sediment. And the absorption factor used in the calculations has been reduced by over 80% from that which actually exists in these soils. The reason for that is that over time, bits of silt and sediment, you sand the road, cars drive on it, it grinds that sand into a fine silt. This rainfall comes, the silt falls into the catch basin. The hood keeps a lot of it out of the system. The extra deep sump allows it to accumulate, but some gets in the system. It can't be built. That eventually starts to clog the pores in the soil. And so we've reduced by 80%, we're only utilizing at the get-go 20% of the absorptive capacity of these soils. It's an extremely conservative design, and I would note that in 50 years I've designed literally hundreds of, if I did 2 a year, there's 100, hundreds of stormwater management systems, and I do not know of any that has failed in any of the towns I've worked in. So I'm comfortable with this, and obviously the town engineer signed off, so he's comfortable with this as well. The additional parking and shared access will increase public safety for all the citizens utilizing Granby Center and the businesses located there. It is necessary for the continued success of the Active Bar and Restaurant, and will meet both the requirements and the desires of Section 310 of your regulations. I've discussed the potential conditions of approval and a few minor changes that are necessary to the plans with Abby, and I'm in agreement with all of the items that she discussed. I'm available to answer any questions, as is the owner of 17R, James, who's here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Before questions, that's Abby. In your memo, any things to point out? And as well, I saw there was a memo from the town engineer, but I think some of that's been addressed already, but if you want to tell us.
Yes, so I'll start with the easy part. So the town engineer did review the plans and confirm that all of his comments have been addressed, so there's nothing outstanding for him. In terms of my comments, there are a couple items. So the first one on sheet 1, just looking at the building areas and the parking space calculation table, that needs to be corrected. And then comments 2 and 3 pertain to the light fixture proposed and the light pole details. There's modification needed to the pole height so it complies with the maximum height allowed in the zoning regulations. And I spoke to the applicant's representative earlier regarding the light fixture. So what is shown on the plan complies with the regulations, but I have questions as to whether or not it's still available, and would like some additional information just confirming it is dark sky compliant, full cutoff, and just showing the light spill, which being told that he can provide that information. And then just noting that if the commission is inclined to approve the application, in addition to satisfaction of those 3 items, the parking agreement would have to be filed on the land records, and then also the lot line revision. But other than that, nothing to add.
And just to be clear, 19 East Granby Road's not involved in this. They had a separate.
That's correct.
Okay. Questions from the commission? Well, I'll start off.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are there any speed bumps being put in the new lot where, it's 3 lots connected together now, which makes it rather long, and I'm wondering about people getting speeded up there. Would speed bumps be appropriate, and do you have any put in there?
We have not shown any speed bumps. There are what's known as traffic calming devices, which are just an island that cuts down on the pavement width. At both of the entrances, normally that's 24 feet wide because the aisle between adjacent parking spaces is 24 feet. And that width is not for traffic, that width is for turning. And so at the both entrances of this new parking lot, where we connect to 4 Park Place and where we connect to 17R, we have narrowed that down to 20 feet. So it's a traffic calming device. People go a little slower when they're pinched. So we have not proposed speed bumps. They create a problem with drainage and stuff. But we figure that serves the same purpose. Additionally, those areas are landscaped, and so that again squeezes that in. People can drive a little slower. People drive their comfort level, and those devices usually suffice.
But I think this is a good idea. Meets the like you said, the regulations to help for the shared parking, and also safety of the patrons that want to use their keeping parking on site. I had 2 questions. One is, I'm not a lighting expert, but is the lighting you have adequate? I know there's another parking lot that's not owned by it, but some people park there, and it's awfully dark right now.
Okay.
And
the regulations in my memo to the town engineer, the regulations say to use the absolute minimum as determined by appropriate authorities. Google it. You get 15,000 authorities, but skimming through them, they say that you should have 2 lux to avoid tripping, to be able to see easily. 2 lux is 1.85 candle power. We have a minimum, 0.185 candle power, foot candles. And we have a minimum of 0.2, so we're a bit above that, not a lot. And the average on the parking lot and the high and the average are appropriate according to those definitions. If the town engineer wants a higher foot candle, or the town director of community development thinks it's more appropriate, what we did was we said to the person who generated the foot candle report, and this has been submitted to the town, here's a couple of copies.
Thank you.
We need to have the minimum that's appropriate. They have to be dark sky compliant. The pole can't be, the mounting height can't be more than 13.2. He sent back this fixture, which is on our plan, but I couldn't find it on the website either. So I'll check with him to make sure it's just not on the website, but it's available. This is dark sky compliant. It's LED, which is low power consumption, and it provides the minimum of 0.2. And I might add that the 0.2 is right at the entrances to the parking lot, because we have 4 lights, not centrally located, but at third points. And so we have quarter points. Excuse me. We have a quarter of the parking lot space, a quarter, another light, and another quarter. So the poles have been put in to have the most uniform distribution possible. In the center, the 2 poles overlap. In the outside, the 2 poles don't, and there's no information entered into that computer model to reflect the lights that exist on the existing parking lot, which are only 30 feet away at 17R. And so that 0.2 at our lowest point, which is actually as you leave the parking lot and go into 4 right next to the light pole, or 17, 30 feet from the light pole, are at 0.2. So I think I haven't got anything to say this is what it is, but I'm intuitively saying, since there's a light pole 30 feet away and a light pole 15 feet away, that it's going to be more than 0.2, quite a bit more than 0.2.
The reason I ask is, they're dark side, they're facing down. And this is my opinion, and Commissioner, I'm not a light expert. I'd rather have it be a little bit on the air, more on the brighter side. You have people walking, I'm assuming they're gonna leave at the barn
Yeah.
and walk to the back here. I'm looking at the light in your existing parking lot, since this is part of the new plan, and that is that it's safe for people, because there's no, they have to walk down the aisleways, right? So that would be a comment I have, Abby, just to make sure that we feel that the lighting is, yes, we're concerned about the dark sky, but I'm also more concerned on pedestrian safety.
The
People
town,
walking.
the town engineer did not sign off until I sent him this, and then he signed off. However, if he and the director of community development feel like 0.3 is better than 0.2, and I can assure you, we have 0.3, because there's a light pole right there and a light pole right there, shining on areas, and we didn't enter those into the, because I didn't know exactly the fixture, et cetera, we didn't enter those into the computer model. But I can assure you that we have 0.3, but if for some reason your staff feels it should be 0.3 on the chart, which would make it like 0.4, I'm happy to change that fixture.
But this, maybe Abby does have that look, and if it's felt that it's safe for pedestrians up there, that's good with me. And the only one, and I'll look for the other, is that on the new parking lot where that narrows,
Yeah.
you have some trees, there's 2 parking spots there. Is there a good enough sight line when somebody's backing out that the tree's not in the way?
Yeah, you can see pretty much under them.
That's fine.
So, Abby, I have a clarification question.
Yeah.
Your staff comment number 3, as well as some of the data that's had here about the availability of light fixtures. Are these the light fixtures that are specified in our code for lighting plans?
So
Are they no longer available?
So we do have, yes, a specific fixture that's in there, and it probably hasn't been changed since the Granby Center zone regulation was adopted.
Right. So I guess that's my call
Yeah.
out. It's probably something else to add to our to-do
Yes.
list. And maybe in the future, we don't tie our reg to a specific manufacturer's lighting considered.
Correct.
They've obsoleted it sounds. So other than some of the height issues and getting the specs on what's proposed, is it what's being proposed based on visual observation from a
Yes.
catalog close to what we had in mind?
Yep.
Okay. No other questions?
Look on my left, Meg, any questions?
I don't think so. Well, so that grassy area with the split rail fence, right? Who did you say owns that currently? The big grass?
I'm sorry, what?
In the proposed parking, who owns this currently? Did you say it's the proposed parking?
Right.
The big grassy area?
Right.
Whose property is this now?
Belongs to 13 East Granby Road.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
'Cause
they
we
signed
walked
the
there from my
application.
house, so I'm
And
like.
the owner of 13 East Granby Road is one entity, and the owner of 17R is another entity. They're the same people.
Got it.
But it's two parcels under two ownerships, because they're the same controlling interest, but they're not the same entity.
Okay.
So there's no, there's no problem with getting that shifted over.
I see.
We just have to have a deed, because a different entity owns this and that.
Okay.
And a copy of that deed was submitted along with a copy of the map that would do that transfer to Abby, just so she knows we, all our ducks are in a row.
Okay. That helps clarify it.
Chris, Eric?
Nothing.
I'm good.
Robert, anything else?
Yeah, no, I have nothing further. I'm good with this. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. As a person who likes to dine at the barn, I look forward to this being complete.
I will ask if there's any other members of the public that would like to address us, please come forward. Any members of the public on Zoom that like to address this application? I'm being seen, any last comments you have, or
No, thank you for your time.
permission? Abby, staff's good?
Yeah.
Okay. If we, before we close, if we did close the hearing, can we leave the staff to fix, if there was a modification to the lights, we could leave that with staff and the applicant?
Yeah.
Might have a proposal to indeed do that.
Okay, then if that's okay to do,
I
then.
expect no less of me.
And if there's nothing else, we will close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Commission has 65 days to come to a decision, but we will be discussing it later on our agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ed, this isn't part of the hearing, but when would you start working on this, if you got approved?
I'm sorry, what?
When would you start doing this if you got approved?
When you might as well,
Yeah,
before summer heat. Sooner the better.
the sooner the better, yeah.
Okay.
We definitely need to fix the drainage in the whole.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, item number 8, receive applications and schedule hearings. Have you gotten anything in, Abby?
We did receive one application for 280 Salmonbrook Street. They are looking for 2 freestanding signs, so mounted on the existing wall at either end of the development. So that does require special permit approval because they're a little bit larger than what's allowed, and they're proposing 2 instead of 1. So we received it too late to run notice, so the
April 9th?
soonest. Yeah, April 9th.
April 9th, good?
Yep.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
Next on the agenda is consider applications where the commission has concluded the public hearing. We did just conclude the hearing for the parking lot on 13 East Granby Road. I'll just start off. I think it fits our regulations and also helps out the existing businesses in the area. And the applicant was very thorough in their plans and has addressed staff comments. But I will address any other commissioner comments.
I think the application's in great shape. They really did good work to show us that they complied with our regulations.
Happy to see it.
Need to be done for a while.
Was the commission okay with my comment on the lighting? Was that something?
You mean that we can just leave it with staff? Yeah, I'm
yes,
fine with that.
Definitely.
And if there's anything else, Amy? No. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll propose a motion. A motion, we approve the application seeking a site plan modification for property located at 13 East Granby Road to construct a parking lot and connect to the parking lots at Fort Park Place and 17R East Granby Road. Approval is contingent upon addressing to the satisfaction of staff the 4 staff comments outlined in the February 29, 2024 memorandum to the Planning and Zoning Commission from the Director of Community Development.
Second,
The lady
That's it.
he just made reference.
made reference? Okay. You good with that, Abby? Okay. We have a motion, I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
James, you're gonna get your own parking spot now, huh?
That's right.
I know, I'm everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, item 10, commission discussion, Granby Center Historic Overlay District requirements, proposed changes to commercial center and center common zones to add specific requirements for new construction of also within historic overlay. So this was a memo and suggestion that came from staff, and I talked with staff a little bit before about it, so I was going to let Abby give a little overview of what we're talking about doing here.
So, as you know, there's a zone change application pending for a property to change from the center edge to the commercial center zone. So in looking at that application, it really made me kind of dive into the Granby Center zoning regulations in a little bit more detail and the historic overlay zone. And when I was reading through the regulations, something that I found a little bit puzzling was in the center edge zone, if a property is also within the Granby Center Historic Overlay District, there are specific site design requirements that apply to that property, but it's not carried across into properties in the commercial center and center common zone as well. So I pulled that language into the memo. So the center commons, it currently has some language, so it says the site design for any proposed new development and for the reuse of any existing building must blend with the traditional area site design as appropriate for the specific location. This would typically include lawn between the structure and the street and parking to the side or rear of the building within the historic district. The center edge, however, has the most specific requirements. And that speaks to all new construction within the zone shall be designed in a residential style, designed to blend and enhance the historic nature of the area, and then use of carefully chosen architectural details such as cornices, bracket shutters is encouraged. And so it made me think and kind of wonder if if these requirements are important for historic properties in the center edge, why wouldn't they apply to properties elsewhere? In the Granby Center zone. So when I looked at the zoning map to see which properties would be affected if this language were pulled into those other zones, there are a total of 7 properties that this would apply to. So 255, 259, 261, and 265 Salmon Brook Street, and then 4 and 8 East Granby Road and 2 Park Place. In looking at the regulations, something though to limit it to the historic overlay zone, how the regulation is currently drafted, it applies to any properties within the Granby Center Historic Overlay District or adjacent to any structure listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So the draft proposes to move that requirement pertaining specifically to properties adjacent to the National Register, because that would further expand the properties where the additional requirements would apply, even if they're outside of the Granby Center historic area. And I thought if the intent was to protect historic properties, it should be limited to historic properties and shouldn't also apply to adjacent properties, that are outside of that area just because they were adjacent to a National Register of Historic Places. So in the packet, you'll see in the commercial center zone, there's at the very top or at the beginning of that zone, there's that language that's again pulled in from the center edge zone that currently exists, just striking out the adjacent to any structure listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So again, if you have a property that's within the Historic Overlay District and also within the Commercial Center Zone, this would apply. And really it's only one property, 2 Park Place. And then when you look at the Center Commons section of the regulations, again, that same language is pulled in, minus the National Register of Historic Places. And then the center edge would remain unchanged. So, open to questions,
So
thoughts.
just as a
feedback.
summary, Abby, looking at the packet and information, this is coming about because we have an inconsistency, is that what I
Yes.
understand? Where we have the historic overlay, but we don't have the same requirements in our regulations that flow through, is that correct?
Correct.
So I want to just make just a really quick observation. I hear that, but maybe it was intentional. You're assuming it wasn't carried through. I'm going to be on the advocate that it was probably done thoughtfully and intentionally. I wasn't here when that overlay was created or how it was applied to those three zones, but I think there should be differences. Just going to state right now, I think the center edge, of course, adjoining other residentials has some special characteristics, and therefore some additional restrictions were applied to that property that weren't in the commercial center, which should be given additional flexibility so we can see businesses succeed and thrive in that area and not have to be subject to additional restrictions, which could continue to hasten the decline of what's been happening with some of these buildings as well as others in the center, and are being turned into rental properties. So that's my 2 cents on it. I don't know. I don't know the changes are needed.
Well, I don't want to forget, Robert?
Yeah, I agree. I don't, if we change it so that this property becomes exempt from those regulations, then I don't know how we in good faith say to the other houses that are now bordering on the zone, well, we can't change you because that would be a step too far. I think that it probably was intentional, that they wanted to keep the character of that building the way it is and didn't want it changing into, a heavy-duty commercial use that didn't resemble a house.
So, Robert, just to make sure I understood, what Abby's proposing is what you were saying, but in the opposite, she's proposing to extend the protections to the other two zones, which they don't have that same.
Extending it as opposed to removing it.
Yes.
Yeah, I would favor extending it.
Okay.
I think that's what's before us.
Is that, am I?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll give Chris next, you talk, so.
I actually think there should be consistency within, if we don't treat the property, all of the properties in the historic overlay district the same way, then why do we even have the historic overlay district? It doesn't mean anything. So I think I like the change. I think it makes sense.
But we're not voting on this tonight,
No.
right? This is a discussion. If we want to proceed with this change, and we'd have to go to CROG and a public hearing, so we're just discussing it tonight, right? So
Yeah,
it's not a yes or a no.
I absolutely, but I think it makes sense. I think otherwise, what does it even mean to have a Granby Center Historic Overlay District if no restrictions follow from that designation?
Well, there are restrictions in each of the three zones. They're less draconian than the one on the center edge, but there are restrictions in the other two zones.
Oh, absolutely. I just think that I think that if we're going to designate something Granby Center Historic Overlay District, the rules should be the same for the whole overlay zone. That's my feeling.
I love and appreciate the look of the historic houses in the area, but also my little knowledge about construction, and it might limit people if we restrict them to what they can do, and these houses might sit there with nothing done to them because there's so many restrictions upon them.
And continue to
It continue to deteriorate because I can't afford that molding that you guys want me to put on the outside of this house to keep with, so I don't know. I'm kind of, I almost agree with Myers over here that there are already overlays and they're just different, and maybe it was done on purpose.
Abby, how long has this overlay in these regs been in existence?
I believe it was when the Granby Center Zone was adopted.
So a long time.
Ms. Paula, do you know?
It was the last redone, the redo that Fran did. And I always wondered why it didn't continue with those 7 properties.
And the regs have served as well, all that.
But to answer what Eric said before, was it intentionally left out, or you just think?
I can't honestly say. Fran must have had, when he wrote it. But to me, right now, no, I'm not supposed to speak.
Go ahead, Paula.
Okay, to me, if we're going to have it all the way out of town, trying to keep those historic buildings looking as historic as you can, we ought to continue other. You look at the Gracie House that's now a law firm. They certainly have done that. We didn't have to put something on their heads to say, keep it in touch with. So, and the historical overlay really doesn't say you can't do anything. It's really a guideline. It says, please respect the history of our old buildings and follow through.
Yeah, if you look at the language that currently applies to the center edge zone, it's really not onerous.
No.
It's really more advisory.
Well, the center edge language becomes a bit more directive.
I don't know. My experience with people buying houses that are in historic districts are, number one, their real estate broker tells them what they're buying. Number two, they're often interested in the kinds of things suggested by our regulations anyway. So I don't see any reason not to extend it as suggested.
I'm looking down at the end here because you have.
Center edge, all new construction within this zone shall be designed in a residential style designed to blend and enhance with the nature. That's pretty directive. That's not a suggestion like it is in the other two zones. And I don't think that fits in our center zone. Center edge, yes, not center zone.
Well, they're all center zones, so you mean,
Well, there's three
Center
center zones.
commons.
Center common, commercial center, this is center edge language specifically. And I believe that's appropriate. I don't believe it's appropriate in the other two center zones.
Sounds like we should.
This is the fine, this is where we have open and honest
Yeah, absolutely.
discussion.
oh, Meg has, we have to let Meg chime in.
I want to think about it more. Sorry.
That's fine, you're allowed to think.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna ask you, I mean, so when we go through these discussions, this is our discussion, that do we want to pursue this, like have staff look at it some more and pursue this as an idea, or do we think it's not a good idea?
Yeah, I'd like to continue to pursue it and research it and be open-minded about it. Yeah. I mean, it's a great discussion. It's great, something right in front of us about aesthetics and how we, maintain charm and also make it accessible to businesses. And I do think that defining historic is interesting too, and how we define it. So it's multi-layered, but luckily there's some really specific things on here, columns and awnings and things of that nature.
Yeah, it's.
And it is just exteriors and what you can see from the road in most
I mean, it applies to
historic
the historic district, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's not.
projects. Correct, yeah.
The overlay district. right?
Yes.
So my opinion, I've seen, I don't know if it's historic or not, but Simsbury has the Starbucks. And they kept the building and it looks nice. I mean, it used to be the ice cream place was in there, so I think that's the intent of the regulation is to keep the structure there and not necessarily say you can't. So if you're in the commercial center and there's something that's allowed, you have to keep the historical facet of, that's how I read it, I don't know.
Yeah, on the exterior, and then you can do what you want to the interior, usually.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it reads, and it's, if we're gonna have a historic overlay district, I think the consistency is important. If the commission doesn't think we need that, but I think that's been around, as Paula said, for a bit now. But sounds like we want to continue the discussion?
I would say.
Sure.
Oh,
Let's
definitely.
continue.
Robert?
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
Continue.
All right. So, I'll talk to Abby then if we want to have a continued discussion or actually make this a draft regular. I know you wanted to think about it some more.
I'm not ready to move it to a draft regulation, I won't support it.
All right, well, it is a draft regulation.
Well, moving on to the CROG.
He means he doesn't want
Next
to
steps.
set it for a public hearing.
That's right.
So we want to discuss it again at
If
the
you're
next
looking
one?
for a unanimous vote, I think we have to discuss it.
We can discuss it some more. I mean, we'll get some public comment at some point at the public hearing, but we can take public comment before a public hearing too.
That would work.
Does the commission want
That
to?
might actually be a good idea. Let's see what the public, how the public reacts to this before we decide to move it to CROG and have a public hearing about it. Let's get some more input. I think that's a good idea.
Eric?
Yep.
Is there a way to do that?
I
I
agree.
don't know that we've ever done it. Well, I've
Yeah,
done it.
we've done it.
We have done it, okay. I mean, I think that's what.
This is a
I think
commission
that's-
initiated change, so we can,
Oh, that's true, we have a lot more freedom.
yeah, it's not an application. So we could have public comment, it's not a public hearing, so we don't have time limits, and get some comment, I'm sure, we could get some feedback from the Historical Society.
Oh, like we did with the. God.
Yeah. I'm good for that. When would we want to do that? April 9th as well?
We don't have a lot for April 9th now, do we?
Yeah, we just have the signs, so we could do that
That'd be-
April 9th.
That's a good time to do it then.
Yeah, and as I was thinking too, if we have that other application, whether or not it's acted on, the zone change still applies because it's not a special permit.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, April 9th's good with me.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Paula?
Public comments available here?
John, you're here, sure.
Only this, there's two other processes going on at the moment which really tie into what you're talking about. There's the Granby Center study, which is grinding along on various fronts. There's also a historic district study going along on a parallel track. It seems like all of these need to be somehow pulled together. Exactly how, I don't know.
Sounds like another joint committee is in our future.
Well, let's get to public comment, and John, fortunately or unfortunately, everything has their own timetables, and it's a point well taken, thank you. Okay.
I was actually gonna say this could tie into town center study and that public input as well. I mean, we can integrate it into something there, maybe the workshop, another station.
Yeah, I mean, let's have the discussion, and we can decide if we want to refer it. I know two members are on that commission, or the committee, and I know you got a lot to do.
Grinding along.
Just some ruts.
Okay, is that good, Abby? Okay. All right, thank you. All right, item number 11, staff report and correspondence.
So Station 280, they received their first partial CO. Is that officially what?
Actually, it's a full CO for 2A.
For
So it's
2A.
the southern wing of building 2.
So 24 units?
21.
21 units are now available for occupancy.
Okay, good.
Wow.
What are they renting for?
I thought they were full.
I think, honestly, they start around $18.50
Yeah.
a month.
Just curious.
Just kind of from there.
That's all I have.
Anybody from the commission?
I have a question. On item 7, the 8-30G proposal for 37 Hartford Avenue was noted as withdrawn. Do we know what the status of their application for wetlands is?
Their public hearing is scheduled for tomorrow night. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Just a reminder, March 18th, Monday, there's the joint meeting with Board of Selectmen and other boards about the proposed solar, Connecticut Siting Council solar project on Floydville Road. I will not be here, I said that, but that's it. Is that
Senior Center.
Senior Center?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. 8 o'clock? 8 o'clock.
Oh, because it's after the BOS.
Yes.
Got it.
Night.
And then our March 26th meeting, I announced previously, I will not be here, so I've asked Vice Chair Myers to run the meeting, so we'll need an alternate for sure, so.
We'll actually need two, 'cause we'll need both of
Oh,
you guys
yeah,
for that
so
meeting,
we'll
because I
both
won't be here
alternates.
either.
We're there, but I don't know. Let me check my schedule.
All right, and that's all I got.
Can I just make a plug for the event, the Town Center Study?
No.
The 23rd and 27th?
Just kidding, go ahead.
Well, I think it ties into everything we do on this commission, and if you guys can be there, that would be great. It's at the Senior Center on the 23rd from 1 to 3, and the 27th from 5 to 7, right before we meet as the Town Center Study. Just come to one, though, because they're going to be very similar.
Were you taking public input?
When we're there,
No, what do you,
oh, I'm just saying, so you guys know to be there, but what's it going to look like?
oh, is it just a meeting? What was it again?
It is an event, so it's a kind of public input event with different stations where people can give input
Okay,
on things in a creative way.
and that's on,
March 23rd,
it's a Saturday.
yep, from 1 to 3, and then the 27th from 5 to 7.
And
Senior Center.
Saturday, and growth at the Senior Center.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
It should be interactive and fun and for all ages. Not just seniors.
Anything else? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. We are adjourned.